Good morning. It has just gone 9 o'clock, and this morning, a happy morning, we will attend to our live Q&A on the issue of child custody and child maintenance. We have posted some reminders this weekend and one this morning. If you are watching this video a bit later, please note that you can receive reminders by following the Advocate Mohammed Abdurauf Facebook page. We will post the details of our next live webinar thereon. And at the same time, the only way to pose live questions would be via the Advocate Mohammed Abdurauf Facebook page. This video is cross-posted or cross-streamed to various other pages as well. If you are trying to pose a question live, please note it has to be done, as I mentioned, on the Advocate Mohammed Abdurauf Facebook page. And that specific page is just above. You can see it. Visit that page, type in the URL, and you should be getting there. I am keeping a close look on the current Facebook page. If you are posing any live questions, please feel free to do so. My apologies for that. Child custody and child maintenance. Those are two very prevalent issues within the family law realm. Customers will, or clients will generally on a daily basis inquire on those two topics. On our blogs, we will receive regular questions regarding problems relating to child custody and child maintenance and so on. At the end of the day, what the law expects is parties should act what is in the children's best interest. And what is in the child's best interest is not necessarily in your best interest. You need to differentiate between the two. I'm just sharing this webinar on another platform on one of our groups. Just bear with me for 1 second. Many people will also pose a question, and it happens on a regular basis, whereby they are under the assumption that child maintenance and child custody goes hand in hand. For example, if I pay child maintenance, I am automatically entitled to have more contact rights. Or the one party or the primary caregiver of the child would be under the assumption that the other party is paying little or no child maintenance, therefore he or she has less contact rights. The two issues are separated and they do not go in hand. They might be relevant, maybe to a certain extent. For example, if a party does not want to pay any child maintenance, but wants to have extended contact to the minor child, and the matter is before a court, the court can obviously look at the person's attitude, but that should not affect his or her contact rights if it would be in the minor child's best interest to have contact with that specific parent. Therefore, the two issues do not work hand in hand. If a party has contact rights, but he or she does not pay child support, then you should approach the maintenance court. Full stop. The maintenance court would have to put an end to the whole issue. They will call both parties in, do an inquiry, and make a maintenance order. So that would resolve that. I do not advise people to regulate the law within their family realm, where they say, okay, you're not paying child maintenance, you cannot have contact. And the person doesn't go to the maintenance court to enforce the maintenance rights. I would also advise parties who are being refused contact, if you are being refused contact to your child, for whatever reasons, to approach the court, approach maybe a mediator first, a social worker, for them to assist you in resolving the matter. But if they cannot work, approach the court. The court can then unpack all the issues and the court will ultimately have to determine what is best for the relevant minor child or minor children. Therefore, welcome again. If you have joined us now, we can see by the numbers that as the video start playing, more people start joining, and everyone is welcome. If you have any questions, live questions, we have an opportunity to have someone like myself who deals in law matters on a daily basis to answer your relevant family law questions. Please remember, you need to post it on the Advocate Mohammed Abdurauf Facebook page. That specific link is just above. You can see it, and join that page, like that page, and you will be receiving regular reminders of our various webinars. We have put something in place so that we can keep you updated all the time. These webinars won't pop up anymore out of nowhere. Let me start with a general question which I obtained regarding child custody and child maintenance. Child custody first. The mother is refusing me contact to my child. Alternatively, I can only have contact when the mother decides I can have contact. The opposite can apply as well, where the father has primary care. That is something that comes to my desk on a regular basis. I would say maybe on a weekly basis with a serious issue. On a daily basis, of course, people are having problems. A parent cannot outrightly refuse another parent contact to a minor child if there are good reasons for that in that specific parent's view. Remember, that is that specific parent's view that there are good reasons for that. It may ultimately mean that the reasons are not sound. For the sole reason, when I deal with these type of matters and it goes to court, the court usually overrides that primary caregiver's view on the matter. He or she believes that it is best for the minor child not to have contact with the other parent at all, indefinitely. And the court looks into the matter, the family advocate gets on board, and they come with recommendations that contact should be exercised. There are obviously scenarios whereby contact would not be in the minor child's best interest. I will not deal with those scenarios because those scenarios are far in between. However, the general scenario would be a child needs to have contact with both his or her parents. That's very important. Parents needs to work towards that. That is extremely important. If there are issues between the parents, which is 9 out of 10 times the case, where the mother has a problem with the father has a problem with the mother, they are embroiled in issues, and they use the minor child as a pawn in the battle between them. The issue could be child maintenance, where one parent does not want to pay child maintenance. The issue could be that the father has a new girlfriend, comes home with a different girlfriend every month or two. The mother remarried. She now has stepchildren. Those could be the issues. The issues could be some type of form of domestic violence that the parties were embroiled in during the marriage. Those are the issues the parties has. If the issue is that the parent was abusive to the minor child, assaulted the minor child, was improper to the minor child, and that's ongoing, those are social welfare issues that you need to bring to the attention of the professionals, and they can look into it. The Department of Social Welfare, see a psychologist, see a social worker, etc. But if the issues are between the parents, and that's what makes a successful case, is if parents or parties can unpack the issues. They can see clearly that the issue is not between the parent and the child. The issue is between the parents themselves. Now, I tell this to many of my clients and to many people. If you do separate, divorce, whatever the case may be, obviously your relationship with the other parent has failed. The marriage didn't work out. Your romantic relationship didn't work out. But you have a minor child together. You have a child together. Although you were bad, and I'll be flat here, although you were unsuccessful in your relationship, why can you not be the best possible co-parents for this minor child? This specific minor child will have both his or her parents in their lives until the very end, for many, many years, until the minor child also becomes a parent and ultimately maybe possibly a grandparent. Why must this child suffer for the next 10, 15, 20 years because the parents cannot get along? Because the parents cannot be very good co-parents. And believe me, it's easier to be good co-parents to the benefit of the minor child than to maybe, possibly, continue living in a toxic relationship whereby the parties are fighting continuously. And being good co-parents does not mean parents should WhatsApp each other every day, communicate with each other every day, and speak about the minor child every day. That's not good co-parenting per se. Good co-parenting is that the parties have a structure in place. They know the father has his own life, the mother has her own life. Both parties might have remarried, but when it comes to the minor child, they work together for what is best for the minor child. For example, if the minor child must spend half the school holidays with the father, the mother would ensure that the minor children are well prepared for their school holidays. She should encourage him to go there, because at certain ages, sometimes kids do not want to, leave a primary home, but they have to. It's important that they spend quality time with both parents. And the same way, if the father is the primary caregiver, it's possible that the minor children do not want to be with the other parent for a long period of time, despite what a court order says. Parents should work together. The same way, if something happens to the child, an accident, the child slips or falls, they should not fight with each other. They should work together in making things better for the minor child. That is why, when it comes to co-parenting, it is an obligation upon all parents to be the best possible co-parents they can be for the minor child. There is no obligation really for parents to work it out between themselves for their own personal relationship, but they need to focus on what's best for the minor child. So therefore, dealing with the issue concerning child custody, I said basically both parents should work towards what's best for the child, and one parent should not refuse contact for the sake of refusing contact. More harm gets done to the minor child. Imagine a minor child goes to school and all his or her friends are talking about, I saw my dad this weekend, I spent time with my dad this weekend. Yes, my parents are, for example, divorced, but I spent time with my dad. Whereby one child will say, I never saw my dad for the last 6 months or for the last year. And the sole reason for that could be, of course, both parties could be to blame, but it's because one parent is refusing the other parent contact with the minor child. And that's not in the child's best interest. So let's move on. So that's one scenario where parents cannot come to an agreement, or one parent refuses contact by the other parent to the minor child. Then what does that person do? What does that parent do? As I mentioned earlier on, mediation is a good first step. The law expects that. It assists greatly in resolving these type of matters. It's funny, when the parties met, they were in love with each other. They could speak very civilly with each other and so on. But now that they are separated and things have happened in between, parties might have moved on, they no longer can communicate with each other, despite them having a minor child together. I advise parties to try to mediate these issues. Forget about the court for now, and we'll get to the issue concerning a court in the next few minutes, but forget about the courts. The courts are there as a last resort, and as anything, the courts does not always resolve the matters. Sometimes things get worse, but I'll deal with that in a few minutes' time. See a mediator, see a priest, see a social worker, see a family member who the parties are obviously accustomed to, somebody older, and that you feel is neutral. The problem I see, and this is my personal view, is that when people communicate while there is an issue, let's say the mother and the father cannot come to an agreement regarding contact on the weekend that the father is remarrying. They can't come to an agreement. The mother says no, the child cannot go with. That might be a good idea, it might not be a good idea. I'm not concluding on that in this webinar. However, the parties are speaking past each other. They're WhatsApping each other. They're being rude with each other. They're being unreasonable with each other. They maybe meet to discuss it, but each one in their own mind has his or her own agenda of what they want to verbalize. The ears are closed. They just want to speak. Both parties want to do that, unfortunately. Therefore, when you go to a third party, and if the third party is a good mediator, he doesn't have to be a professional like a psychologist or social worker. It could be somebody that's, maybe somebody that's an HR, somebody that works in a business, somebody mature. Sit down with this person, but at the same time, let this person try to resolve the issue. Getting back to my point which I wanted to make is that parties do not listen to the other party. But if you start listening to the other party, if the mediator says, ma'am, sir, please keep quiet. You cannot speak now. You had your chance. Give the other party his or her 10 or 15 minutes to speak. And the other party speaks. He or she mentions the problems they have, the issues they have with the other party. And this could be the first time in the last, let's say, 2 years or 3 years that the parties actually listened to the other party. And I believe if parties start listening to each other, it's much better than not listening. And closing your ears and just being stubborn and just proceeding on what you believe is best without consideration of the other party. Imagine how this world will work if there's never consultation. You go to work, you got a problem at work, you got a grievance, but the boss does not listen to you. He just wants to speak. Alternatively, the boss speaks and you do not listen to him because you just want to speak, or whatever the scenario is. It's important in these situations because we are dealing with a minor child. We are dealing with a human being and we're dealing with a family. Something very important. Something you can't put a figure on, a monetary figure on. If you lose a job, you get a new job. But if you lose a relationship with a child, how do you get it again? You can get another boss, you can get another co-worker, another colleague. How do you get a father-son, father-daughter, mother-daughter, mother-son relationship again? It's only 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, depending on how many kids you have. Therefore, in a very good mediation setting, the parties need to sit down. The parties need to sit with a professional person and they need to start listening. And once they start listening to each other, I honestly believe the result starts to come about. Because they listen, the conversation changes. The conversation previously for the last 5 years were, I am right, you are wrong, you had an affair with somebody 6 months before we divorced 10 years ago, and that is a mindset all the time. I don't trust you. But let this person speak. Listen to him, see why he wants to have more contact or she wants to have more contact. And after you have listened to that, the conversation will definitely be different than it was 10 years ago because you never listened to a single sentence the person said. Okay, enough about listening. Let's move on. If the mediation process cannot work or it fails, I would say usually at the first meeting with this professional, people speak, they get used to the idea. Second meeting, the same thing. Third meeting, you need to see results, some changes. And it possibly can fail. Mediation can fail. But you need to see some changes. But if you do not see any changes and things are going nowhere, and you're still being refused contact, things are a bit unreasonable, and at the fourth meeting you're seeing there is no progress over here. One party has an agenda, you might have an agenda as well. Your agenda might be, I'm sticking to my guns, I'm just sitting this thing through. But I would say ultimately, if mediation failed, there was a dialogue and it causes people to start thinking differently in trying to resolve matters. But let's move on. Let's say mediation has failed. And before I go further, I got a comment here from somebody greeting us. Hope you have a lovely day. If you have any questions, please feel free to pose it. I am online for the next 20 odd minutes on child custody and child maintenance. I know many people prefer to listen, but if you have a question, feel free to pose it on the Advocate Mohammed Abdurrauf Facebook page. Now mediation has failed. What do you do then? The problem is still there, but the dialogue today has taken place. Unfortunately, the next port of call is the courts. There are pros and there are cons for anything in life. There's pros and cons for certain software, computer software, for certain foods. Too much of a good thing is bad. For certain people, for certain conversation. There are always pros and cons. And the same applies to a court of law. The pros, of course, is ultimately, at the end of that whole journey, the court would make a decision and they should resolve matters temporarily, maybe. Does not necessarily mean it will resolve issues indefinitely. Now, why do I say these cons? Yes, of course there are cons. Number one, it costs money. You can do it on your own if you want to. What you cannot take away is time. It takes a lot of time. If you go to a children's court, you might have to appear 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times, depending on how this matter gets resolved. You might have to meet with a social worker. You might have to attend a few mediation sessions and so on. So it takes a lot of time, at least. And the biggest con in relation to taking a matter to a court, you are placing your entire future with regard to the minor child in the hands of a total stranger. With the greatest respect to the legal system, I respect judges, magistrates, legal professionals all the time. I mean, I respect them greatly. However, the reality is you are placing your life in the hands of a third party that would never most probably meet you if it's in the High Court, for argument's sake, that will never meet the minor child. More than likely, the magistrate or the judge will never see the minor child. And all that the judge or magistrate has is some court notes, some evidence which you presented to the court at best, or let's say 2-3 hours in court, or if it's in the High Court, the affidavits. Let's say a few hundred or so pages, 100 to 150 pages of reading, which the judge could possibly read in half an hour to an hour, depending upon how voluminous it is. Then we have the Office of the Family Advocate. If they get on board, they meet the parties for a few hours. So we have a situation here whereby third parties who do not know you at all, who deals with many of these type of files, you are putting your life in his or her hands with respect. They have a duty, they have a job. The same way coming to my office. I do not know you, I just do best I can, because you have an issue with the other party. I know nothing else. I only know what I obtain from you. And this this judge or the magistrate will make a decision based upon, let's say for argument's sake, 10 hours on your matter. Would he or she make a proper, fair decision that is truly the best for you and the minor child, as opposed to you and the other parent who have been involved in the child's life for the last 10 years, knows everything about the child, whereby only 30% or 10% of that information that you know about the child are in the court papers or presented to the court. You know everything about yourselves, and the same principle apply with the amount of information the court has. Who will make a better decision as to what is best for the child and yourselves? Of course you, and not the court. But the court has to be involved. The court has to resolve the matter. And that's a last resort. So that's a con. But obviously, your decision. If the matter cannot be resolved via mediation or by yourselves, it needs to go to court. And the court in the best will try their best to come to some type of a resolution. But I still say, the best resolutions are made or comes about when the parties themselves have agreed to it. We have some live questions. I see we took about 25 minutes to get to this point, but you are always welcome. If you have any other questions, please feel free to pose it. The first question I have is, father not paying maintenance 3 years. His reasons not working and court let him get away. So for 3 years he hasn't been paying maintenance and he says he's unemployed. He has remarried. Why has he been allowed to see his kids every weekend and the eldest, who is 10, must stay with him 1 week, a month? Maintenance court in SA is unjust and do not help most women. This is a very unfortunate situation. I cannot answer the question as why the court made a decision regarding the father having contact with the minor child for 1 week per month. The maintenance court is a court on its own. Fully unemployed and he cannot afford to pay child maintenance. And that's what the decision of the maintenance court. Why should that father be not allowed to see the minor child? The same way are we saying that if the father has custody and the mother cannot find a job, she should not be able to have contact. I cannot comment as to whether or not the court was just and equitable. If the magistrate looked at the matter, she made a court decision based upon all the facts, and she came to the decision that the father should see the minor child 1 weekend per month. I cannot say that's right or wrong, and I would presume that they have applied the child best interest principle in coming to that decision. If, however, you are under the impression that the father is lying, he has a job, he is earning money, then you need to just do a bit of research or find ways of figuring out where is he obtaining that money, or some type of evidence. There might be evidence online of him enjoying life, nice car, whatever he's doing. You might have someone possibly follow him, get a private investigator and find out what is he doing during the day. Maybe he's going to work, maybe he has a job that pays cash, maybe he's self-employed, I do not know. So those are the things that you can do. But I should presume that if two courts made a decision that the father should have contact and maintenance is unaffordable, then that is a decision. But the last comment it says, where the person says, maintenance court in SA is unjust, do not help most women. And that's unfortunately a complaint I receive on a regular basis. But with a counter of that, I cannot answer that for the maintenance court. I'm not the maintenance court, I'm not the Department of Justice. And no matter how much I will agree or talk against the maintenance system, it doesn't benefit anyone. It doesn't assist me, it doesn't assist you. But I strongly advise, and I had a webinar with Felicity and guest last week, and I said this to her regarding these issues. I told her, and I mentioned in a webinar, that mothers and fathers who are applying for child maintenance need to start changing their way of thinking. They need to be proactive in their way of thinking. They should know the back of their brain. The maintenance courts are understaffed. They seem to be very busy, or they're lazy, whatever the case may be. There are many maintenance courts in South Africa. I'm not generalizing. Few people come with these type of comments. I presume that specific maintenance court is so. I do not know. You need to take stock of your case. You need to start acting like the maintenance investigator, the maintenance prosecutor, the maintenance officer, and so on. And if the other party can afford to pay the maintenance and is trying to hide from paying child maintenance, you need to prove that to the maintenance court. Don't leave it up to the maintenance court to do so. So the specific commenter, I definitely sympathize with you, but I cannot take it any further. But if you have any further comments, you're welcome to pose it. Another second comment we have, well, yes, they call it comments, I see. If the child wants to spend equal time, however the other party is not open to it, does the child have a say? That is quite a frequent question we receive. At which age you start listening to a child, what the child wants? Do we listen to what the child has to say? What type of contact rights the child wants the parents to exercise? Obviously, it depends on the age. If the child is young, 3-4 years old, we don't listen really to what the child has to say. We listen, but we do not listen. So to make a decision based upon that. I like posing the question. Let's say, for example, a child is in the primary care of the mother. Mother does an awesome job. She attends a homework school. If the child gets ill, she's there. She does an amazing job. With father is, life is good. It's fun. On the weekends, they go to McDonald's and they have fun. They visit cousins, friends, and so on. Now, on that specific the Sunday night comes, the child said, no, I'm 14 years old. I do not want to go back to mom. I want to stay by dad. Or the child is 16 or 17 years old. Do we listen to the child? Dad lives far from the school. Dad cannot attend to homework. Dad is very busy. Dad works long hours. Do we listen to the child? We say, okay, no, child, you decide. You want to live with dad, although dad is not the best caregiver for the child. Obviously, we don't listen to the child. We listen, but we don't necessarily take we don't follow up on the views. But you have to listen. And sometimes they have good reasons. They can say, you know, mom, I'm 16 years old. I'm by dad. It's quieter here. My school friends live close by. I can do my assignments and homework with him. It's exam time. Whatever the case may be. And also my extracurricular activities are closer by. And I feel I want to be a dad, and it will be best for me to finalize my matric living here. As opposed to mom with his little kids. You know, she remarried, whatever the case may be. So we listen, but it doesn't automatically mean so. I done a case a few years ago where the minor child specifically said he wants to live by the dad because things are just better there. He didn't want to stay by the mom, and we respected it, and the court made such an order. We didn't fight it, but the court confirmed it. Going back to the question, you need to look at the reasons for why the child wants to stay with one parent, if it's sound reasons, because it does not by default mean a parent can care for a child. And I hate saying this, and people will disagree with me, but it doesn't not mean automatically if a child is 10 years old and you only spend weekends with this child, and the other parent is doing a sterling job caring for the child during the week, homework, schoolwork, knows the teachers and everything, it does not automatically mean that you can care for the child just as well as the other parent. Maybe you can, maybe you cannot. I do not know. And do you want to take that risk? Do we want to, at this pertinent time in the child's life, automatically change things? We do not know the factors applicable. I mean, the child might be an hour away, the school of the child might be an hour drive away from the other parent. And traffic, the child will have to wake up an hour earlier because the other school, the school he's currently attending, the school is around the corner. He wakes up maybe at 6 o'clock. Should he now live with dad or with mom, depending upon the other home, he has to wake up at 5 o'clock. He has to spend another hour getting home, and so on. Therefore, in conclusion on the specific question, and which I thank you for, and I'll repeat the question, if the child wants to spend equal time, however, other party is not open to it, does the child have a say? We listen to what the child has to say, however, the adults are the parents. Tomorrow the child said, I want to smoke, I want to drop out of school. We listen to them, and we have to listen to their reasons, but they do not conclude on what's best for them. The parents decide what's best for the minor children. If you have any questions, feel free to pose it. I'll try my best to answer it. The person that posed the first question regarding the issue she has with the maintenance and the custody added another question, or another comment. Also, if mother gets full custody, can she leave the country with the minor kids? Now, we're dealing with the issue concerning relocation. In terms of the Children's Act, Section 18, it says, basically, if a minor child leaves the Republic of South Africa or applies for a passport, both guardians' consent is required. So full custody would not be I know people get the terms wrong, but basically guardianship is applicable here. If the mother obtains sole guardianship over the minor children, and the father is no longer a co-holder of guardianship over the minor children, then she can apply for a passport and relocate without the other parent's consent, co-guardian, because he's no longer